The judge overseeing former President Donald Trump's classified documents case held a sealed hearing today on Trump's efforts to have the entire case dismissed. Overnight, prosecutors filed these never-before-seen pictures of classified documents.
What unfolded in that courtroom wasn't just another legal hearing. It was a complete and utter breakdown, one that could haunt Trump's legal future for years to come. The former president, known for his bombastic rhetoric and defiant posturing, finally met an environment where his usual tactics backfired spectacularly. During his civil fraud trial in New York, Donald Trump took the witness stand and promptly lost control. Witnesses inside the courtroom described a scene that bordered on chaos. Trump shouting at Justice Arthur Engoron, jabbing his finger in the air, and accusing the presiding judge, of all people, of being the real fraud. The judge was forced to intervene, stating firmly, "This is not a political rally. Please just answer the questions." But Trump didn't stop. He couldn't stop. According to multiple reporters present, the outburst lasted several minutes, not a momentary flash of anger, but a sustained tirade. Trump railed against what he called a rigged proceeding, ignoring both the court's warnings and frantic attempts by his own legal team to rein him in, and his attorneys, the very people trying to defend him, were visibly trying to calm their client down. And still, Trump kept going. This wasn't an isolated incident. It's part of a disturbing and consistent pattern. Across multiple legal battles, civil fraud cases, immunity hearings, classified document proceedings, Trump has repeatedly blown up at judges. Every time the pressure intensifies, every time he's forced into an environment where he can't simply tweet his way out or walk off stage, he unravels. And every single time it makes his situation worse. Before we get into the details, I'd appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave a like on this video. And if you're enjoying the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support really helps us continue to bring you valuable content. Let's break down what actually happened. Trump appeared in his New York civil fraud trial, a case brought by Attorney General Letitia James, accusing him of systematically inflating the value of his assets to secure more favorable loan terms. This wasn't a criminal trial. It was a civil case focused on financial misconduct. Trump was supposed to take the stand, answer questions posed by his attorneys, and present his defense calmly and coherently. That's not what occurred. Instead, Trump treated Justice Engoron's courtroom like a campaign stop. He launched into his familiar rants about witch hunts and political persecution as if he were standing before a crowd of supporters rather than a judge with the power to determine his financial fate. The judge's warning, "This is not a political rally," wasn't just a reprimand. It was a reminder of a fundamental truth Trump seems incapable of accepting. In a court of law, the rules are different. You don't get to grandstand. You don't get to play to an audience. You answer questions, follow procedure, and respect the authority of the bench. Trump ignored that warning. For minutes, plural, not seconds, he continued his tirade. Court reporters documented him yelling, gesturing wildly, and openly accusing the judge of corruption and bias. All of this happened under oath, in front of the very person who would ultimately decide his case. Think about the implications. This is the judge who will rule on whether Trump committed fraud. This is the judge who will determine how much Trump owes in penalties. And Trump just spent several minutes screaming at him, calling him corrupt, and accusing him of presiding over a sham trial. How do you think that affects a judge's perspective? Judges are human beings. They're trained to be impartial, to weigh evidence objectively, and to set aside personal feelings. But they're not robots. When a defendant stands in your courtroom, disrespects your authority, ignores your instructions, and launches personal attacks against you, it's nearly impossible not to let that behavior influence your perception, even subconsciously. Now, this doesn't mean judges will rule unfairly, but it does mean they're far less likely to extend leniency, far less inclined to give the defendant the benefit of the doubt, and far more skeptical of any arguments presented in their defense. Trump's outburst didn't just damage his case. It may have sealed its outcome. His own legal team understood this. That's why they were desperately trying to stop him. These are experienced attorneys who know how courts work, who understand that antagonizing a judge is legal suicide. And yet, Trump refused to listen. He plowed ahead, turning what should have been a straightforward testimony into a courtroom spectacle. This wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last. Trump has been fined multiple times for violating gag orders, court-imposed restrictions that prohibit him from publicly attacking court staff, witnesses, or the judicial process itself. These orders exist for a reason: to protect the integrity of legal proceedings and prevent intimidation. Trump has violated them repeatedly. He's been warned, fined, and threatened with escalating consequences. And still he continues. In prior hearings before Judge Engoron, Trump has faced similar reprimands. The judge has imposed financial penalties, issued stern warnings, and made it abundantly clear that his courtroom is not a stage for political theater. Yet Trump keeps testing those boundaries, as if daring the system to hold him accountable. This pattern extends beyond New York. In federal cases involving classified documents, in hearings over presidential immunity, in every high-stakes legal proceeding Trump has faced, the same dynamic emerges: mounting pressure, loss of control, verbal attacks on the judiciary, and consequences that make his legal position weaker. It's not strategy, it's compulsion. Judge Engoron's warning, "If Trump cannot control himself, the judge will," isn't hyperbole. It's a direct threat of contempt of court. Contempt is a serious charge. It means a defendant has so thoroughly disrespected the judicial process that the court must intervene with punitive measures. And those measures can include jail time. Yes, jail time, even for a former president. Contempt of court doesn't require a lengthy trial or a jury verdict. A judge can find someone in contempt on the spot and order them detained until they agree to comply with court orders. It's typically temporary, lasting hours, days, or until the individual apologizes and commits to proper behavior. But it's real incarceration, and Judge Engoron made it clear he's willing to take that step if Trump's behavior continues. This is how far things have deteriorated. We're now at a point where a sitting judge is openly considering jailing a former president of the United States for courtroom misconduct. But the damage doesn't end in the courtroom. According to independent reporting from NBC and Reuters, judges who have ruled against Trump have faced alarming levels of harassment. Some have received death threats. Others have had to alter their daily routines, changing routes to work, avoiding predictable patterns, taking extra security precautions. Why? Because Trump's public attacks on judges don't stay confined to legal filings or courtroom arguments. When he calls a judge corrupt on social media, when he labels a proceeding rigged in front of millions of followers, some of those followers take action. They harass, they threaten. They make judges fear for their safety and the safety of their families. This isn't speculation. It's documented. Judges have had to install enhanced security systems at their homes. Some have requested additional protection from law enforcement, all because they did their jobs, made rulings based on law and evidence, and a powerful political figure publicly attacked them for it. This creates a chilling effect on judicial independence. Judges are supposed to rule based on the law, not based on fear of political backlash or personal danger. But when making the legally correct decision means facing harassment, when upholding the Constitution means endangering your family, the very foundation of our legal system is threatened. And that's exactly what someone like Trump wants. He wants judges to think twice before ruling against him. He wants them to fear the consequences. As of early 2025, Trump's legal battles are only intensifying. Just last month, additional classified documents were uncovered during ongoing investigations, further complicating his defense. Prosecutors continue to build their case, and more hearings are scheduled in the coming weeks. Each one represents another opportunity for Trump to take the stand, and another opportunity for his self-control to crumble under oath. Legal analysts are increasingly concerned that Trump's behavior is not just damaging his individual cases, but setting dangerous precedents for how public figures interact with the judicial system. The American Bar Association recently issued a statement emphasizing the importance of respecting judicial authority and the rule of law, a clear, if unnamed, reference to Trump's conduct. This isn't just about one man's legal troubles. It's about whether our judicial system can function when defendants with massive public followings openly attack and undermine it. It's about whether judges can make impartial decisions without fearing for their physical safety. It's about whether the rule of law applies equally to everyone, or whether wealth, fame, and political power create a separate set of rules. Trump's courtroom meltdowns reveal something deeper: an inability to accept authority, to follow rules, to operate within a system where someone else holds power over him. In a rally, Trump controls the narrative. He can say anything, insult anyone, make wild claims, and his supporters cheer. But in a courtroom, there are rules. There are consequences for perjury. There are penalties for disruption. And there's a judge with the authority to silence you, fine you, or even jail you. Trump cannot adapt to that environment. And that fundamental inability is destroying his legal defense. Some have suggested Trump's outbursts are calculated, a deliberate strategy to intimidate judges, delay proceedings, or rally his political base by portraying himself as a victim of persecution. But the evidence suggests otherwise. A strategic approach would be selective. You'd see Trump maintaining composure when it serves his interests and only lashing out when there's a calculated benefit. But that's not what we're seeing. Trump explodes every single time he's under oath and under pressure. His own attorneys, people whose careers depend on winning his cases, try desperately to stop him, and he ignores them. That's not strategy. That's loss of control. The pattern is too consistent, too reflexive, too damaging to be deliberate. This is a man who fundamentally cannot tolerate being constrained, questioned, or held accountable. And in a courtroom, all three are unavoidable. As Trump's legal battles continue, and they will continue, we're going to see more of these catastrophic hearings. More judges warning him to control himself. More fines being imposed. More threats of contempt. And more explosive outbursts as the pressure mounts and the consequences become inescapable. Each meltdown makes his legal situation worse. Each outburst hardens judicial attitudes toward him. Each violation of a gag order brings him closer to serious sanctions, including possible incarceration. The legal walls are closing in, not because of bias or persecution, but because Trump's own behavior is accelerating his downfall. He's handing prosecutors evidence of his inability to follow court orders. He's giving judges reasons to impose harsher penalties. He's creating a documented record of someone who cannot control himself under scrutiny, and there's no indication he'll stop. The pattern is too deeply ingrained. As long as Trump faces legal accountability, as long as he's forced into courtrooms where his usual tactics don't work, we're going to see more explosions, more warnings, and more consequences. What we witnessed in that New York courtroom wasn't just a bad day for Donald Trump's legal defense. It was a window into something more fundamental. A man incapable of operating within a system of rules and accountability, lashing out at the very institutions designed to ensure justice is applied fairly. The judges presiding over his cases aren't his enemies. They're public servants doing their jobs. The prosecutors building cases against him aren't engaged in witch hunts. They're following evidence. And the legal system imposing consequences on him isn't rigged. It's functioning exactly as it's supposed to. Trump's inability to accept those realities, his compulsion to attack, to deflect, to rage against constraints, is turning every courtroom appearance into a disaster. Not for the judges, not for the prosecutors, for him. The catastrophic hearing where Trump exploded at Justice Engoron wasn't an aberration. It was a preview of what's to come as his legal battles intensify, his options narrow, and his desperation grows. And as long as that pattern continues, his legal nightmare will only deepen.